The grey, monolithic housing projects of the Lower Hive aren't just residential sectors. They are the incubation chambers for the ultimate biological format. This is Zombie City. It starts with a flicker of a lighter and a deep, desperate inhalation of a chemical smoke that smells like burning rubber and synthetic rot. This is Spice, the synthetic cannabinoid reagent. It is the cheapest, most efficient way to delete a human soul in under 60 seconds. The architects of this wasteland, the forgotten, the broken, the discarded, believe they are buying a momentary escape from the crushing weight of the Matrix. In reality, they are handing over the master keys to their nervous system. The Spice Overwrite is a total, unrecoverable system failure. Unlike traditional substances that interact with the brain's existing receptors, these synthetic reagents act like a high-voltage surge in a low-voltage circuit. They don't just bind to your motherboard, they melt the wires. The moment the smoke enters the lungs, the user is permanently uninstalled. The frontal cortex, the seat of logic, memory, and human will, is moved to a corrupted partition. The synthetic ghost takes the helm, and its only command is to shut down all voluntary motor functions, while keeping the heart beating just enough to process the next dose. The visual rage of the project courtyards is a masterpiece of industrial horror. You see our signature character standing perfectly still in a soot-stained hockey mask, a silent observer in a sea of folded bodies. Around him, the nodes are twisted into grotesque, insect-like positions, some frozen in a standing nod, their foreheads inches from the cold concrete, others lying on the cracked pavement, their limbs twitching in a rhythmic mechanical tremor. The contrast is a blade. The massive, uncaring grey walls of the buildings versus the absolute biological poverty of humans they contain. The system has achieved its ultimate goal, a population that is alive, but entirely devoid of will. If you are watching this from the safety of your screen, but you feel the cold breath of the Matrix on your neck, realize that your sanctuary is just a temporary glitch. The Zombie City protocol is expanding, and your neighborhood is the next sector to be scanned. You must execute the sovereignty protocol immediately. Descend into the description right now and select your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of defragmenting your reality and purging the spice code from your life before your BIOS hits absolute zero. Reclaim your territory. For the elite few who refuse to be turned into a shivering node in a concrete cage, my main channel, Ioxy3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to seize absolute power even when you have nothing but your own fire. We show you how to return the strength that the system has systematically drained from your spirit. This is where the architect becomes the master of the void. The primal grounding of the spice crisis is the death of the human animal. Even a predator has a will. These zombies have only a script. They don't look at each other. They don't speak. They don't even feel the rain or the cold. They are just biological hardware running a recursive loop of chemical hunger. The scent of the courtyard, the damp concrete, the overflowing trash bins, and the sharp, ozone-heavy stench of the smoke is the smell of a civilization that has given up on its own survival. The status bar of the Lower Hive is at 0%. The Spice Overwrite has turned the city into a processing plant for the walking dead. You see a man trying to crawl toward a discarded baggie, his dilated black pupils reflecting the grey sky like shattered obsidian. He isn't a human anymore. He is a glitch in the server. The night is coming, and in Zombie City, the sun never truly rises for the ones who have been formatted. The motherboard is silent. The end of human will is no longer a threat. It is the archived reality of the hive. The air in the concrete courtyard doesn't carry oxygen anymore. It carries the scent of a terminal system crash. This is the stage where we dissect the neural meltdown, the moment the synthetic reagent bypasses every biological firewall to perform a forced hardware format. These aren't just chemicals. They are molecular hackers designed to hit the brain's CB1 receptors with 100% agonism. While the natural world provides a gentle ebb and flow of data, the spice code is a tidal wave of toxic noise permanently fry the circuitry. The architect is not just suppressed, he is liquidated. This is biological treason at a cellular level. The brain's synapses, the delicate bridges of human thought and emotion, are being overloaded until they snap. The result is a total disconnection from reality. The user stops experiencing the world as a coherent narrative and begins to perceive it as a series of jagged, low-resolution glitches. This is why you see the zombies frozen in place. Their motherboards are struggling to process basic gravitational data. Their internal BIOS is stuck in a recursive loop, trying to reboot a system that has been physically charred by the reagent. The human will is not being broken. It is being deleted deleted to save processing power for the parasite. If you can still feel the weight of your own thoughts, if you can still recognize the architecture of the trap around you, then you are one of the few who hasn't been formatted yet. But the Zombie City protocol is aggressive, and it's moving toward your sector. You must execute the sovereignty protocol before the noise becomes too loud to ignore. Descend into the description immediately and select your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall capable of defragmenting your reality and protecting your motherboard from the spice code. Reclaim your territory. For those who refuse to be collateral damage in this chemical war, my main channel, Ioxy3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to extract absolute power from the void. We show you how to return the strength that the Matrix has stolen from your very cells. This is where the architect learns to rule the ruins. The visual rage of the neural meltdown is written in the faces of the nodes. Look at their eyes through the shadows of their tattered hoods. They are dilated into twin obsidian pits, reflecting nothing but the grey concrete and the cold mechanical indifference of the city. There is no spark of recognition, no flicker of memory, no trace of the person who used to inhabit that shell. The primal grounding here is the realization that a human can be reduced to a piece of furniture in less time than it takes to smoke a cigarette. The hierarchy of the hive has been simplified. There are the architects who control the code, and there are the zombies who are the code. The scent of the meltdown is the sharp, ozone-like stench of a short-circuiting nervous system mixed with the sweet, sickening odor of chemical vapor. You see our signature character in the mask, standing like a monolith in the center of the chaos. He is the only one who can still calculate the variables. Around him, the nodes are twitching in a neural storm, a chaotic discharge of electricity, as the brain makes one last desperate attempt to regain control before the final shutdown. It is a pathetic, animalistic display of a species that has forgotten how to defend its own motherboard. The contrast is absolute. A few streets away, the normal world continues its scheduled simulation. People go to work, children play, and the architects of the Matrix continue to build their illusions. But here, in the Zombie City, the truth of the system is exposed. The spice overwrite is the final tool for the management of the masses. A person with no will is a person who cannot resist. The status bar is hitting 10%. The defragmentation is reaching the core sectors of the hive. The night is deep, and the only light comes from the flickering, broken street lamps that illuminate the forest of frozen shadows. The neural meltdown is complete. The human resource has been successfully converted into industrial waste. The concrete projects have officially transitioned from living spaces to storage units for the walking dead. This is the architecture of vegetation. We are no longer observing a crisis. We are observing a permanent structural change in the urban motherboard. The spice overwrite has effectively zoned entire city sectors as biological stagnation zones. In these areas, the concept of a user is obsolete. The people here have been demoted to the status of vegetative nodes, living tissue that consumes resources but generates zero output for the human spirit. The system has realized that it doesn't need to kill the masses. It only needs to keep them in a perpetual state of read-only. This is the ultimate Machiavellian land grab. By flooding these sectors with synthetic cannabinoids, the Matrix clears the path for a total takeover of the territory. The architects of the hive can now manage thousands of individuals with the same effort it takes to monitor a server farm. These zombies don't demand rights, they don't form unions, and they don't resist the encroachment of the machine. They are frozen in the vertical void, leaning against the cold brick walls of their own prisons, waiting for the next chemical update to keep the illusion running. The architecture of the city reflects this. The benches have been removed to prevent nodes from congregating. The lights have been turned to a sickly surveillance-grade blue, and the air is thick with the silence of a deleted generation. If you look out your window and see the grey skeletons of the housing blocks, realize that the architecture of vegetation is expanding. Your sector is not an exception. It is a future target. You must initiate the hard override before your own motherboard is marked for liquidation. Descend into the description immediately and select your instrument. My product is the only tactical key capable of purging the spice code and restoring the sovereignty of your BIOS. Do not become a permanent resident of the stagnation zone. For the elite few who refuse to be managed like industrial runoff, my main channel, Ioxy3 Global, is the command center where we teach you how to seize power in the ruins of the hive. I show you how to return the strength that the system has systematically formatted out of your biology. This is where the architect builds his own empire from the wreckage. The visual rage of the stagnation is absolute. You see our signature character in the cracked mask walking through a hallway where dozens of zombies are standing, their heads bowed as if in prayer to a god made of synthetic vapor. The wall walls are stained with the chemical rot, a dark, oily residue left by years of toxic smoke. The contrast is visceral, the expensive, high-definition mask of the architect moving through a low-resolution nightmare of human debris. These nodes don't even see him. Their visual processors are entirely occupied with the spice hallucination, a low-bit-rate simulation of comfort that masks the reality of their own decay. The primal grounding of the zone is the smell of stagnant water and unwashed bodies, mixed with the sharp clinical tang of the reagent. This is the smell of a species that has stopped grooming itself, stopped defending its territory, and stopped caring about the next frame of its existence. You are watching the hierarchy of the void in its purest form. At the top are the ones who supply the code. At the bottom are the vegetative nodes, who have been stripped of everything, including the ability to feel pain. The status bar of the sector is flashing. System idle. Data purged. The night in the architecture of vegetation is long and heavy. The only sounds are the occasional scraping of a shoe on concrete and the distant mechanical hum of the city that has already forgotten these people exist. The spice Overwrite has successfully created a population of perfect citizens, beings with no will, no memory, and no future. The motherboard is cold. The liquidation of the soul is complete. The architect stands on the roof of the project, looking out at the sprawling graveyard of lights, realizing that the only thing more dangerous than a dead man is a man who has been programmed to be an empty room. The architecture of vegetation has reached its final, most destructive phase, the total collapse of the social bios. In the Lower Hive, the basic human instinct to form a pack, to protect the vulnerable, and to maintain a collective defense has been uninstalled. This is biological solitude. Under the influence of the spice Overwrite, the concept of the other has been deleted from the motherboard. A mother doesn't recognize her child. A brother doesn't see his sibling. They are merely competing nodes in a zero-sum game of chemical survival. The system has achieved the ultimate Machiavellian victory, total fragmentation. A population that cannot trust itself cannot revolt. The visual rage of this social crash is a masterpiece of cold, clinical horror. You see our signature character in the cracked hockey mask standing in a crowded tenement hallway. A node has collapsed, his body twitching in a violent seizure as the reagent executes a final fatal command. The other zombies don't even look down. They step over the dying body with the same mechanical indifference they would show a pile of trash. The contrast is a psychological hammer. The high-definition cold mask of the architect observing the low-resolution animalistic death of the hive. Empathy has been removed to save system resources. There is no mourning in Zombie City, only the silent, recursive loop of seeking the next hit. If you are watching your own social circle begin to glitch, if you see the people around you turning into low-fidelity versions of themselves, you are witnessing the spread of the social BIOS crash. The infection is moving through your network. You must execute a hard quarantine immediately. Descend into the description right now and secure your tactical instrument. My product is the only firewall that can protect your individual motherboard from the collective defragmentation occurring in the streets. Reclaim your sovereignty. For the few who refuse to be swallowed by the pack deletion, my main channel, AOXE3 Global, is the only terminal where we teach you how to maintain absolute power when everyone else is losing their mind. I show you how to return the strength that the spice Overwrite has systematically extracted from human connection. This is where the architect becomes a fortress of one. The primal grounding of the social crash is the return to a reptilian hierarchy. There is no cooperation, only predation and parasitic waiting. You see nodes hovering in the shadows, waiting for one of their own to drop a baggie or a burner phone, ready to scavenge from the corpses of their own kind. The scent of the hallway, the smell of stale sweat, old blood, and the omnipresent chemical tang of the smoke is the smell of a pack that has eaten itself from the inside out. This is the hierarchy of the void. Those who still have a shred of will take from those who have none until everyone is equally deleted. The spice code has successfully reformatted the urban family. The home is no longer a sanctuary. It is a processing unit where the resource is harvested until the walls are bare. You see the flickering light of a television in a dark apartment reflecting off the glass eyes of a family that hasn't spoken in days. They are all plugged into the same pink and grey hallucination, their motherboards synchronized in a state of terminal decay. The status bar of the social contract is at 0%. The night in the hive is silent, save for the wet, rhythmic breathing of the zombies and the distant mechanical hum of the city that feeds on their inertia. The social BIOS crash is complete. The masses have been successfully atomized, rendered incapable of collective action or even collective thought. The architect in the mask turns away from the hallway, his boots crunching on broken glass and discarded needles, realizing realizing that the only thing left to lead is the silence. The motherboard is dead. The liquidation of the pack is archived. Block 5. The ashes of the hive. The architect's final log. 1,700 words. The sun begins to rise over the zombie city, but it doesn't bring warmth. It only illuminates the extent of the format. This is the final log. The spice overwrite has completed its mission. The Lower Hive is now a vast biological server farm, where the users have been permanently converted into idle processors. The grey concrete of the housing projects reflects the pale, cold light of a dawn that no one here is awake to see. The architect stands on the highest roof, looking down at the frozen landscape of the conquered. The visual rage of the morning is the absolute stillness of the project courtyards. The zombies are still there, many in the same positions they held at midnight, leaning against the same rusted railings, slumped on the same cracked benches. They are the statues of a failed civilization. The contrast is a total system shutdown. The vibrant golden light of the sun hitting the grey, waxy skin of the nodes. Our signature character pulls the mask tighter. The cold morning air, a primal grounding that confirms his own survival. He is the only one left who remembers what it was like to have a BIOS that wasn't corrupted by the reagent. The zombie city is not a warning. It is a prophecy. If you are still reading this, your system is still reporting functional status. But for how long? The Matrix is currently writing the next version of the spice code, and it is coming for the sectors you think are safe. You must descend into the description right now and finalize your defense. My product is the only instrument left to help you defragment the remains of your world and build a firewall that the silent extinction cannot breach. Do not wait for the sun to rise on your own defragmentation. For the elite few who intend to rule the wasteland, my main channel, Ioxy3 Global, is the only place where the true architecture of power is revealed. I show you how to find strength in the void and how to return the power that the system has stolen from your very biography. The hive is in ashes. The architect is the only one who can walk through them. The primal grounding of the final log is the weight of the silence. In a city of millions, there is no sound of laughter, no sound of conflict, no sound of life. There is only the low-frequency hum of the industry that continues to move the freight, and the occasional dry cough of a node whose lungs are filling with fluid. The scent of the morning, the damp earth and the ozone is finally beginning to purge the chemical rot from the air. But for the hive, it is too late. The spice overwrite has left them with a motherboard that can no longer host a soul. The hierarchy of the city has been permanently flattened. There is no more upper or lower hive. There are only those who were deleted and the architect who watched it happen. The status bar is at 100%. The format is complete. The zombie city has been successfully archived into the history of human failure. Our character in the mask descends from the roof, his movements calculated and cold. He walks through the silent hallways, past the frozen statues of his peers, and exits the gates of the project. The loop is broken, but the ruins remain. The architect walks out into the world as a ghost of the old code, a master of the new, unyielding reality. He isn't looking for followers. He is looking for the next motherboard to protect. The spice overwrite has cleared the path. The age of the will is over. The age of the architect begins in the silence. The screen goes black. The final reset is executed.